Fred Lake was an everyman in baseball, a player, manager, scout, ambassador, pioneer, and unknown to many, also a Nova Scotian. Born in 1866 in the township of Cornwallis, then located between Kentville and Canning in the Annapolis Valley, Fred lived his life for baseball. He was 2 years old when his father moved the family to Boston for employment reasons. In 1887, at age 20, he started playing baseball at a semi-pro level in New England. He was hired to play in Moncton in 1890, and a year later, the National League's Boston Beaneaters invited him to play as a catcher and first baseman. They won the pennant, but Fred was let go and played minor ball again until 1894, when he joined Louisville as a backup on an unsuccessful team. He played then in Toronto, Kansas City, and went back to Boston, where with the Beaneaters in a backup catcher role, he was part of another pennant-winning team. His major league playing career ended, and he toured the minors, started the semi-pro Atlantic Baseball League as a playing member of a Lowell, Massachusetts team. He was also the league's secretary, treasurer, and chief promoter.
His statistics as a Major League Baseball player are not eye-popping by any means. He had an average, sort of like Smith. It was a little better. It was about 232, I believe, a career lifetime average. He was mostly a backup player, backup catcher for the teams that he played on. His best season, he hit 286 for Louisville in a backup role. But he did so much more than just play.
And that's where we pick it up, because in 1908, his baseball career took a dramatic turn, and we continue the story.
He was also a manager. And as a manager, he took over a Boston Red Sox team that was well under 500, finished the remaining part of the season at 22 wins and 17 losses, and then took over the following year, and his team won 88 games opposed to 63 losses, and they went from 5th place to 3rd place.
And Don Hislop, our chief researcher tonight, also talks positively about Lake's character.
Owner John Taylor, who actually gave the Red Sox their name, they were previously called by the Boston Americans. Lake went into Taylor asking a raise at the end of the 1909 season. And Taylor said, no. And Fred Lake said, I'm sorry, I resign. It was as simple as that. Fred Lake was a man of principles. If he felt he deserved something, he sought it out.
So did he wallow in self-pity? No way. In 1910, he was named manager of the National League's Boston Doves, later to become the Braves. He took over a team that was 45-108 in 1909, with little expectation from fans or media to improve. They won 8 more games and finished 53-100 in 8th place. But he won support among players and fans. He felt rookie first basemen were timid about keeping their foot on the base when runners raced down the line with spikes flying, so he invented a device to cover the ankle and lower leg. It was made of pliable felt extending from the toe to halfway up the calf and fastened around the leg with a bicycle clip. And he was also PR conscious. In a late-season game in New York's Polo Grounds, several hundred orphans were guests of the Giants, and they cheered lustily for their home team. When Lake was ejected for arguing an umpire's call, the kids jeered him and said some unkind things. So Lake smiled and took his equipment bag, walked to the area where the orphans were seated, and tossed baseballs to them. The jeers turned to cheers, and the children instead started insulting the ump. Fred Lake was a baseball talent scout. He was the man who discovered future Hall of Fame member Tris Speaker, a .345 career hitter, MVP in 1912 as a member of the Red Sox, and a guy termed by some to be the greatest center fielder to ever play the game, perhaps better than even Mantle or Mays. Lake also signed Boston Red Sox star outfielder Harry Hooper, a career .285 hitter, and Hall of Fame member who won 4 World Series between 1912 and 1918. He also signed Smokey Joe Wood, who won 34 games for the 1912 champion Red Sox and 2 other World Series with them.
If there was ever a Scouts Hall of Fame, and you scouted Tris Speaker, Smokey Joe Wood, Harry Hooper, and Bill Kerrigan, I would think that alone would put you into a Scouts Hall of Fame.
Fred Lovett Lake had a love for baseball in a career that not only allowed him to play in both the minor and major leagues, but coach, manage, and scout. He was highly praised by the newspapers of the day from east to west coast. As people heard of his exploits, if there had been radio and TV, he would have been quoted often. He was a man of conviction, as demonstrated by his salary stand against the Red Sox ownership, and some called him stubborn, but he believed in himself. He is the fourth fastest Red Sox manager to reach 100 wins in his career, and obviously would have won lots more, maybe even a World Series or two, but for that impasse between him and ownership. He is the only person to have managed both the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Doves from 1912 to the mid-1920s. Fred was known as the baseball tourist. He managed teams all over the New England area, including Harvard University. He is known for growing and developing minor league baseball in New England. When he died from heart trouble in November of 1931, he left a legacy that was long unknown in the province in which he was born. But no more as of tonight, ladies and gentlemen. For tonight, Fred Lake becomes an honored member of the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame.